Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our brand new series, Getting Personal with Parkinson's Facebook Live. I'm Caroline Colas, and I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness for the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan and the Program Coordinator for the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program, supported by New York's largest healthcare provider, Northwell Health. For over 12 years, the JCC has been hosting programs for individuals living with Parkinson's. You can find these programs on our website at www.mmjccm.org/Parkinson. I'm so excited to be joining you every week right here on the JCC Facebook page live. We want this event to be personal and put a face to Parkinson's and introduce you to people living and thriving with PD. We will also speak with experts who will share updates and research, and maybe even a celebrity or two will stop by. You never know. This program is for anyone whose life has been impacted by PD, those diagnosed, as well as family and friends, and those supporting people living with PD. So let's create this show together. Let us know if you want to be a guest, or if you know of someone we should feature, or if there's a special topic that is of interest to you. All inquiries can be directed to Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm.org. See the comments section on Facebook for that information. And now I'm excited to introduce you to three amazing people who all have a connection to the Alexander Technique. And we're going to find out what that is. The Alexander Technique and Parkinson's. Dr. John Austin is a retired director of chest radiology at Columbia University Medical Center, where he served on the faculty in various capacities for 50 plus years. A serious amateur musician, he plays the violin, the viola, and the double bass, and he's also a composer, and we're going to get to hear one of his compositions a little bit later. John began studying the Alexander Technique 40 years ago to help with his music, and about 10 years ago, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's and discovered that the Alexander Technique was extremely helpful in managing his Parkinson's symptoms. Bill Connington is John's Alexander teacher and has been involved in the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's program here at the JCC since its inception. Bill has written 3 books on the Alexander Technique, and he is currently on the faculty at the Yale School of Drama. Bill recently teamed up with Heather Curran, who you're also going to meet today. She's a vocal coach, singer, actress, and beloved Sing for PD instructor. They created Align and Sing, a new program for us, for the Parkinson's program. And Heather has studied the Alexander Technique, and when she approached me about doing a class, she said, I'd love to combine Alexander Technique with singing. She found it helped improve her singing and her performance work. So it was her idea to put these two together. The class brings together the alignment techniques from Alexander Technique with the vocal production skills from singing to help those living with Parkinson's improve vocal projection, breath control, and vocal stamina. I had a wonderful chat with John and Bill and Heather that we pre-recorded, which I want to share with you now. And afterwards, stay tuned because we'll be meeting them live for a Q&A. As you listen to this conversation, if you have any questions that come to your mind, just put them in the comments section on the Facebook page, and we'll happily answer them. And now, on with the show. So John, welcome to the show. This is so interesting to learn about a little bit about you and your life. I understand you're a radiologist. Is that true?
I'm a retired chest radiologist.
Chest radiologist.
Neuroradiologist.
Yeah.
I've worked with lung disease for 50 odd years. And I've loved the work, very challenging and obviously important. I also took the violin in 2nd grade, and I'm today a good amateur, what would be called a good amateur musician. Playing violin, viola, my main instrument, I have a double bass of all.
Wow.
Which was the easiest thing to handle when you have Parkinson's, because you have to carry this big thing around.
Right, and also stand to play it.
Stand to play it. Or some people sit, but I'm a stander. I do classical and folk music both.
Wow.
And that gives me a very nice, focus when I have Parkinson's. Sometimes the Parkinson's gets in the way of playing the instrument. Imagine. And what I have to do then is wait till I'm in a good period and can play. In performance, I've played both superbly and terribly.
Right. Well, I can say as a dancer, I've performed both terribly and superbly too.
Very good.
So when were you first, well, first let's go back a little bit. So what got you interested in medicine in the first place?
Oh, in college or through college years, I always liked science. And medicine seemed the obvious way to go because I had no idea what I really wanted to do. And somebody said, if you go to medical school, there's so many choices, you'll find something you like. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. And when were you diagnosed with Parkinson's?
2013, so pushing 10 years ago. And
10 years ago.
And actually, the first neurologist who saw me, I have tremulousness of the wrists and hands. And that neurologist said, "You do not have Parkinson's," and was wrong.
It was wrong. And why do you think that they said you didn't have Parkinson's?
No idea.
Huh.
No idea. Today, or in the last 5 years, here I am in radiology, there's a nuclear medicine test that is 99% accurate. I'm blocking the name of the test. It's not I think CAT scan is a dog scan. There's a T in there somewhere.
Well, we'll find out and we'll put it in the comment section, not to worry. So you had this diagnosis, and when did you first it said you don't have it, and then what made you suspicious and want to pursue it? As a doctor or as a scientist, did you say, wait a second, something's wrong, and you went to someone else? Or
actually, a fellow doctor looked at me trembling and his sister had Parkinson's. He said, "Oh, you have Parkinson's." Just, it was a casual, non-professional moment. And I remember thinking, he's right. And from there, I went and followed with a Parkinson's specialist as the neurologist who manages.
And when did you meet who I'm delighted to introduce next, Bill Connington, who has been on our staff and is a Alexander teacher. And I understand, hey, Bill, welcome. I understand that has been instrumental in helping you manage your Parkinson's. When did you meet Bill, or what drew you to Alexander technique? Or as a musician, were you already engaged in Alexander technique?
Actually, what happened is, this is in the late 70s. My viola teacher, who was a noted New York City violist, said, the Alexander technique can help you more than I can. And I thought, I had no idea. I'd never heard of it. But they recommended a famous teacher, and I went to her. And it took 3 lessons. On the 3rd lesson, I said, this is real. And I've been an advocate ever since. And then I immediately realized I had to do a study. And the study was very simple. It was just taking normal adults, dividing them in 2 categories, those who had their usual lives, and the other half, 50%, had usual lives plus an Alexander lesson of an hour per week. And we did it for 20 weeks. And sure enough, people who had Alexander lessons, not all, statistically, their muscular related measurements of breathing, like how fast they could get air in and out, all increased significantly. And Bill was one, and we had multiple teachers that, so we couldn't say this is a teacher effect. We had 5 or 6 teachers, and Bill, I think you had 2 or maybe 3 people in the series. And that's where we first connected.
So Bill, let's, first of all, it's great to see you. Great
to
we've
see
known
you.
each other for so many years, and started the program together at the JCC, the Parkinson'S SAFRA, Edmund J. SAFRA Parkinson's Wellness Program together. And you were interested in working with people with Parkinson's. You were very open to that. What made you think in the beginning that this might be effective for people with Parkinson's, or did you even know? And can you explain what Alexander technique is, actually?
Sure. Alexander technique is a method for working with the mind body for improving physical freedom, balance, and coordinations. And it's also a very practical technique. It helps people in their daily activities, sitting, standing, walking, bending, and speaking and singing. And the reason I knew that I wanted to become involved with what you were putting together was as I was already working with some people privately who were people living with Parkinson's. And I saw the benefits that they were receiving. I was working with a woman who was having a lot of trouble with low volume. When she was speaking, people couldn't hear her when she spoke. So working with the Alexander technique, aligning her body, working with her breathing, she was more able to control her breath and her volume, and people were able to hear her. Also, she was having trouble with her balance. She was very unsteady in her walking. And we saw that after a relatively short number of sessions, she was able to help herself in daily life walk better, with better balance. And the voice, that's where Heather comes in. So it was great when you came back to me and said, would you do this class with Heather Curran, align and sing? And I thought it's a perfect coming together of singing and of Alexander technique. I think there are many benefits. I think it works on increasing people's breath capacity and management of their air. And also if people are having low volume when they're speaking, they can be heard more easily. But also, I just think it's a lot of fun, and people have there are a lot of psychological benefits in working with the singing.
Yeah. So why don't we bring Heather on? So Heather, you can tell us how Alexander impacted you. And I remember when I first met you, I said to you, you're an amazing singer and you've worked with the Parkinson's community and are beloved by the Parkinson's community. And I said, well, what would you like to teach if you could just imagine anything and you wanted to do anything? And you said, well, actually, I would love to teach singing with an Alexander technique. Why was that? Why was that a desire?
I had just started taking Alexander myself. I went to school for theater and I've done music theater for many years. But I never got a lot of Alexander training. So I kind of researched classes around the city. And as soon as I saw that it was great for Parkinson's, I thought, oh, this is one of those magical things where I can do something that I want for my own life. I was having joint pain. I was having my own vocal problems, jaw pain. My voice was getting tired. I'd get headaches. I was having a lot of issues with performing. But then when I saw that it could be good for Parkinson's, I thought, well, what I learned for myself, hopefully I can bring to all my students. And it just opened my mind in such a way that that years of voice training, I have some classical training with really wonderful teachers and teachers with students on Broadway and in opera, but I'd never had this kind of freedom from such simple things, simple adjustments, and suddenly so much freedom in my body, less pain, also just feeling happier. Because, there is a kind of mental component to Alexander technique about kind of just being aware of why I'm doing certain things. And it's not a judgy, I shouldn't be doing them. It's just, let's just be aware and maybe we can find some love for ourselves, and a better, more efficient way of being. So it's just helped my singing so much, and it's helped my own body so much. And what I've seen in bringing little bits of Alexander, because I'm not an Alexander teacher, just little bits to my classes, I've seen that it's been really powerful. So I was excited to take someone who is a master like Bill and say, okay, I can only give sprinklings. I don't, it's just wonderful to watch him do what he does because he just makes it so accessible. Like,
I agree. And John, can I come back to you for a second and ask you, how did you, or how have you used Alexander technique with your Parkinson's? You've had Parkinson's now for 10 years. Have you feel it's helped with your as it progressed, or how would you define that?
I find myself talking to my body in what seems to be useful way. When I have a problem with my two hands shaking, so I just say to myself, well, this is real attention to the hands, the wrists, the fingers. I'd say, if I put real attention to these places, what does it feel like? And can I make it feel better? And it frequently stops or calms down markedly. It's amazing. It's true.
Yeah. And Bill, how would you explain that?
Well, I think that the Alexander intervention, if you want to use scientific terms, is indirect rather than direct. Because if you tell someone, stop shaking, that's almost guaranteed not to work if someone is concerned about tremoring. But if you calm down the whole body, if you calm down the muscular system, if you calm down the nervous system, if you calm down the breathing, I've seen over and over, especially when people are doing the lying down work, that the tremoring stops of its own accord as the body becomes more balanced and more coordinated. So this is something that I think really bears studying. John is lucky that in that your progression, you've had it almost 10 years and the progression is quite slow. And I think part of my feeling of why that is that John's had 40 years of Alexander lessons. He's very aware of his body, of his balance, of his coordination. We see each other twice a week, but John's with himself all the time. So if he catches himself stooping, or if he catches himself tightening, he can make a positive change. So it's my theory, or it's my hope, that someday we can show in a medical study that something like the Alexander technique, which is a mindful movement method, I think is slowing the progression.
Beautiful. And I know that you are interested in doing a study together. We've been talking about that with Lychee and another Parkinson's researcher. Can you guys tell us a little bit about that? And then I want to go on to the singing a little bit. So yeah, tell us, Bill, why don't you start? And then John, we've kind of roped you into working on this study with us.
Well, I think that there are many aspects of the Alexander technique and people who live with Parkinson's that could be studied. I hope eventually we'll look at postural stoop, we'll look at balance, we'll look at coordination. But I think a good place to start is rigidity, because almost every person living with Parkinson's has some form of rigidity. So it looks like we'll be putting together a study where we'll have a group of people who are studying the Alexander technique, and we'll look at them before and after. And I hope to show that after the training, that people have a little bit more influence over their own body, their own posture, their own movement. And this will reduce the rigidity. Anything you want to say about that, John?
I think that's absolutely the right way to go. And in addition, to make it carry some power in the medical universe, duplicate our study of 30 years ago on normal adults, uh, having Alexander lessons, having their muscular aspects, breathing improved, which is what we showed 30 years ago, and we never followed that up. So I feel ready to follow it up now.
Well, you've retired now, so now you have time to follow it up with us, which is very exciting. Yeah. And Heather, you've said that you have felt the impact of, working with Alexander Technique. And you both seem to mention, Bill and Heather, this idea of lightening up or even being happy or the psychological benefits. Bill, can you comment on that? And then Heather, can you tell us whether that's been your experience too?
Well, I think there's something about people getting together and singing that just improves your mood, especially in this time of COVID. But I'm sure post-COVID, it will be important too. So you're gathering together with like-minded people. And in this case, it's all people living with Parkinson's. You're working with releasing the body, freeing the body, but also what's happening when you're singing, you're deepening the breathing, you're getting deeper breath, you're learning to extend your breath, you're learning to, in an organic, healthy way, control your breathing. And so this has benefits, as I said earlier, about just making yourself heard more in terms of volume. But it's also my theory that it helps people be heard more psychologically too. What do you think, Heather?
I completely agree. I say in class, even I teach children as well, that music helps us lean into difficult feelings and lean out from difficult feelings. So often I'll ask for requests sometimes, and people will request songs that are very emotional, like You'll Never Walk Alone. That's a very emotional song where sometimes at the end of class, people are weeping and they want to weep, right? And then we have other songs like Anything Goes, Cole Porter, where people want to laugh and feel silly. And I just feel like music is such an interesting way to let your body feel a lot of things in a safe environment, right? You're able to feel it and then release it. And I feel like as far as Alexander Technique is related to that, it just puts your nervous system feels safe. So I think you're able to lean into difficult feelings and difficult emotions in a place where your body is constantly saying, you know what, everything's fine. And that's, of course, that's great for anything having to do with the voice, because whenever your body clenches up or is thinking, oh, something's going to be difficult, your voice is like your friend who says, I don't want to do this. And a lot of times it won't do the high note. It won't hold out the note for the amount of time you want because your voice just says, no, thanks. I'm not on board. So a lot of times during class, Bill will I'll look at him and he'll be doing something with his hands. This is one of my favorite things that he does. He puts his hands behind his
Why don't we all start that? Why don't we all try that?
Here.
And so maybe he'll also, and I'm always saying, well, Bill, what else? And just the idea of relaxing your neck, it reminds me that I have all these things from singing I'm 44, so I've been singing since I was a kid. So I've almost been singing 40 years. I have all these habits that Bill will just see one little thing. And as soon as I do this, my whole body goes, and all of a sudden, I didn't think I could hit these high notes the same way. And of course, they're so much bigger. The amount of effort that is like it's like half or a third of the effort that I needed. I can do the exact same things with so much less effort.
It almost sounds like, Bill, that Alexander Technique or John gives you access. It's like suddenly you have access to your breathing or access to the spaces in your body, or, you know, it's like there's what I'm picking up is a sense of freedom and mobility and ease. Am I onto something?
Yes.
I think you're right. I mean, I think the medical people call it appropriate muscular action. I mean, you do have to use muscles to hold an instrument like John is playing. You need muscle action in order to play the instrument, and when you're singing, you are using your muscles. But what Heather and I are trying to teach is appropriate muscle action, not too much, not too little. So what I'm doing physically in the class is making sure technical things like you're not tensing your neck too much so that you're not squeezing your throat so that it's hard for the singing to come out. I'm making sure you're not stiffening your tongue, stiffening your shoulders, or squeezing your rib cage, which makes it harder to breathe and let the voice out. And when you take away those tension habits, then, as you say, then the communication can just come out more freely, more easily, more directly. Do you have any insight, John, about playing classical music? Is it similar to what we're talking about with singing?
Oh, yes. It's all about using your musculoskeletal system to make music.
Beautiful. And then I'm just curious, Heather, how has working with people with PD influenced, inspired, or changed your teaching?
Well, I feel like I had this idea of being on stage, and that was like the greatest feeling, was being on stage with an audience clapping. And then my friend William Wade is one of the people who've helped start the program at Mark Morris. And he would invite me to class, and at the end of class, the dance classes, we would all hold hands, and he would start playing a song, and I'd start singing as we were passing the pulse. And I'd never felt that as a performer before, this kind of like we were in church together, but I just never felt such connection, but also just such appreciation from a community of some of the most joyful people I've ever met in my life, honestly. I thought that I would come to a room full of people who are dealing with a lot of difficulty, and I was kind of prepared for that. But what I actually got was really just some of the funniest, just joyful, lighthearted, playful people I've ever met in my life. Trying to remember what the question was. So it's just
just how you're answering it, how people with working with PD has influenced or changed your teaching. And I guess for Bill, what have you learned most from working with the challenges that Parkinson's presents? I mean, you're working also over at Yale Drama School with professional actors and also lay people, and then people living with Parkinson's. That's quite a large spectrum of folks. And now with Heather in the singing class, how has it changed your teaching or influenced it?
I think it's similar to Heather in a way. I think, to me, it's really brought it down to brass tacks about what's the most important thing. I think it's helped simplify my thinking about the Alexander technique and what balance really is, and helping people find their balance, and hopefully empowering people to find their own balance, both in the class when they're singing, but also in their daily life. It was interesting, Heather, I don't know if you remember, but in the first class, we didn't know each other. We came together, but it seemed like we knew each other for a long time. We know how to bounce back and forth together and work together. But it was interesting at the end of the class, the participants obviously loved the singing class and had been doing the class with Heather for some time. But something about the physicality, they said, oh, everything's just so much easier. It's easier to sing. It's easier to breathe. And it made the fun, they were having fun anyway, but it seemed to help connect them to the fun even more. So just being a participant in that process has really been meaningful.
And John, I'm curious, it sounds to me like as you're a musician, as Parkinson's is playing you and you're playing with Parkinson's, right? Would you describe it that way, that you're able to use the Alexander technique and the skills that you've learned over the years to mitigate some of what's happening with your body, to co-create with your body? How would you describe it? Those are my words. I don't know if I'm being accurate.
Something calming about the nervous system taking in the information and then helping the body do what you would like it to do, and calming the neuromuscular system. Definitely what the Alexander technique does, and we know it works. I mean, we all have this experience of how joyful it is when your body does what you want it to do, and the sound, or for a dancer, the movements come out.
John, do you mind if I tell us? I'm sorry, John, do you mind if I tell a story that you told the other day about your tremor?
Tell me, I don't know.
Okay, well, you told the most interesting story. It's common to see people living with Parkinson's, if they're tremoring and if it's bothering them, that they'll grab their own hand or grab their own arm and try and force it to be still, which often doesn't work. But you said that a couple of weeks ago, one of your hands was tremoring and it was bothering you a little bit, but you used an indirect approach, and you said that you talked to yourself and you said, what would it be like if my arm just quieted down and my hand quieted down and it was a little bit easier? And you said that thought pattern actually had an effect on your physicality. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Wow. That's awesome. Can we get a little sample of, Bill, maybe something that you would do if you were beginning the class, and then Heather, how you would incorporate that so that folks can have a sense of what it is that your class is like?
Sure. Happy to do that. We often start out by dealing with the head-neck relationship, because the head weighs about 10 pounds. It sits up at the top of the spine. And often that weight kind of compresses people down into a slump. Or sometimes people pull up in military posture. That's a different kind of habit. So I have people put their hands on to remind themselves to keep the neck easy and to think about the head balanced at the top of the spine. And then I have people turn their head just a little bit from side to side in a movement exploration to see if they can keep the neck easy. And then I ask them to nod their head up and down to see if they can keep the neck easy. Then I ask them to think about the head balanced easily at the end of the spine, almost like somebody balancing a ball on the end of their finger. And then I'll often put my hands here to help people remember to stay open and wide through the chest and through the shoulders. And then I might have them take their arms out to the side to get an openness through the chest and to help them get the breath coming a little bit lower down, and to think about a length and an ease coming up through the body. And then Heather, you take that and bring it into sound.
Yeah, and then we do some breathing things. I like a friend of mine, Katie Pfaffel is her name. She was on Broadway, taught me this great dog pant thing where you just put your hand on your tummy, you relax your tongue, or you can be more active with the tongue. But I like relaxing the tongue. You just pant like a dog. And you can feel a lot going on in your tummy. Everyone I've ever done it with raises their hand. And then just that gives the body a feeling like, oh, relax my belly. And then I want to mention one thing. Bill gives me all these great ideas. we do a song called They Can't Take That Away From Me, Gershwin. Yeah. And great song. I have this great jazzy karaoke track that we use. And he has people tap on their body. So that phrase that goes, ba 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 ba, it repeats over and over again. The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea. And see, Bill's putting his hand here because we have the members tap on their body that rhythm. The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea. And then the third one, you hold it out. But throughout the song, they go back to the tapping. And now, more time, now that they know the song so well, we'll tap on our shoulders, we'll tap on our legs, and becomes this playful, childlike. I'm singing, but I'm playing a game, and my body is involved. It's not just this and that. My whole body is involved in singing because, voice is the whole body, right? This is the whole body. So Bill has taught me a lot of great things that I go, oh, what do you think we should do here, Bill? Let's do more movement stuff in the middle of our singing.
Well, I love that it is a collaboration that I don't know if it's being done out there in the world, and it's being fun. It's fun to have both of you who are experts in your fields doing that. And then John would love to have you play for us, at some point, just to hear that and how the Alexander technique. Now, when you work with Bill, does he do similar things, or is it completely different because it's unique to each person?
We do more classic Alexander work of standing and sitting. There's some work lying down on the table. We've never worked together, or only a few times with the instrument, John. We should do that more when we're in person.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you all enough for joining me today. This has been really intriguing. This idea that you can do less to get more access is something that I think in the Parkinson's world, it's like, oh, you got to push, you got to exercise, you got to get out there, you got to do. And what I hear you saying is, wait a second, let's relax the nervous system. Let's take a moment to, sense our body. Let's not work on things like stopping them. Let's allow what is and work with.
I think allow is the key.
Mm-hmm. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Wow. And now, everyone, we are actually going to hear, before we start the Q&A, a short clip of John's music. This is something that he composed. Matt, can you play that for us? Wonderful. And I believe John is joining us. And I would love to know, John, can you tell us a little bit about the information we just heard? I understand that you're actually playing the bass, right? And a professional musician is at the piano.
That's right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. We had a grandson, Zeke, born, on day 5 after his birth. I was inspired to write this rag. And 20 months later, another grandson appeared named Leo. And I said, I've got to write a rag for Leo. And what you played here was Zeke's rag is one tune and Leo's rag as a second tune, as a duet.
Gotcha.
And you could hear the difference between the violin and the viola. And
Yeah.
Julia Christ, our Zeke's first cousin, is playing the lead violin part, and she plays it very easily and naturally. She did it in one take in the studio. We were all very happy about it.
Wow. And how old is she now?
She's 17 now. I think she was 11 when
when she was playing that.
It's playing.
John, I think you can turn on your video camera and then we can see you.
I tried turning it on and it didn't go. Let's try again.
Try again. There you are. All
That
right.
was-
And I believe we also have Bill and Heather in the house. So, oh yes, here we go. Hey, Bill. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
It's so much fun to have you guys here for this live Q&A. So appreciate you guys spending your time with us. John, you mentioned in the clip we just saw how Alexander Technique has helped you manage your Parkinson's symptoms. But music is a vital part of working with the brain too. Learning to play a musical instrument is supposed to be great for the brain, especially as we age. Have you found that your musical studies have helped you manage your PD at all?
Oh yes. Oh yes. The brains. I'm not a neuroradiologist. I'm a chest radiologist, but neuroradiologists have all kinds of studies they can do on how the brain does things. And when a musician is playing, what they say is that more parts of the brain are actively engaged when a person is playing a musical instrument than any other activity. Which which, uh, maybe it's true.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And we've had several neurologists come and talk about music in the brain, and they have validated what you just said. Is there a difference between when you're playing the music and when you listen to the music in terms of how it affects or impacts your PD? Or do you use music in both ways?
PD is so unpredictable from day to day or hour to hour that I hesitate to say.
Right. Yeah, I understand. But you do listen to music as well as enjoy playing it.
Of course, and there's enormous enjoyment in sheer listening if you're just sitting in a chair and not dancing.
Yeah. I find that when I'm listening to music, then I'm not ruminating. And that's always a good thing. Bill, you mentioned a potential study that you and John are working on regarding Parkinson's and Alexander technique. Can you guys elaborate a little bit more on that? How long ago was the first study that you did? And why are you prompted to do another one?
The first
Well,
study
let's see.
was, goodness, a good 20 plus years ago. And I was a full-time professor of radiology. I had all this stuff I had to do, and I never followed up. And as you said, now I'm retired. I can do it, and I look forward to it. Bill, any thoughts?
Yeah, what was the
Yeah.
study specifically, and then what do you hope to do in this new study, Bill?
Well, the study that John did originally over 20 years ago was measuring breath capacity and the Alexander technique. And John found that there was an increase in breath capacity uh, after studying the Alexander technique, which was significant. But what we're looking at now is there's so many symptoms that could be studied, and there's so many ways that the Alexander technique seems to help people who are living with PD. Balance, coordination, gait, postural stoop. There are many aspects that could be studied, but the one that I honed in on was rigidity, because it seems that almost everyone living with PD has some degree of rigidity. So John and I will be designing a study, and we're going to see what happens when people study the Alexander technique, and whether we hope to find that it can reduce rigidity in daily life so that things like walking, sitting, standing, daily functioning can be easier.
Wonderful. And speaking of increasing breath capacity, Heather, you mentioned that singing some Broadway show tunes and songs from the American Songbook, right, that you do that in class. What if someone prefers like rock and roll or folk music? Can the techniques that you teach work with any kind of music, and can anyone take the class?
Yeah, anyone can take the class. I always hate it when I hear these stories from people who sometimes are in their 70s and they say, you know, a teacher when I was a kid told me that I wasn't a good singer and I love to sing, but I don't want to sing around people. That always breaks my heart a little
Yeah.
because singing is something that every human being should have access to. Every human being should be able to sing. If you see little kids, they love to sing, they love to make music, they love to dance, and we're still little kids. We're still those little kids inside. So I say, come and sing. And also we sing Beatles, we sing Carole King, we sing Joni Mitchell. I'm gonna be adding Bob Dylan, John Denver. I kind of listen to the students and then try and see if that music fits in my voice. In another class, they love ABBA, Dancing Queen. I sound terrible singing it. I'm terrible at singing that song.
I don't believe you at all. I've heard you sing. You're such a
Oh,
beautiful singer. Do
but
you
we get
believe
up
her,
and
Bill?
yeah.
No, I don't believe her. But are you saying that ABBA maybe isn't your favorite? But you're so inclusive. You try to have songs that everybody likes, and that's why you're
Yeah.
always asking people what they like to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love ABBA. I love ABBA. I actually tell people to get up and dance because I go, this is not about me sounding pretty for sure, guys. So let's dance it out. And it's so much fun to see everyone's video, and sometimes their partner or their caretaker is there behind them, just dancing to Dancing Queen. It's fantastic. So,
And
yeah.
yeah, that's great. And how about you, John? Are you also, in addition to a musician, do you like to sing as well,
I
or do you
love,
find that that's helpful for you?
oh yes, I love singing, love dancing. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Bill and Heather, what kind of experience, if anybody, we've already talked about that. Do people need to have to take the class? Do they have to be able to read music, and or can they just come try a class?
Uh, just come. I have, I pull up lyrics, I put them on the screen. Sometimes I put them in different colors for different sections of the song, and we'll talk about how "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" is a verse chorus song. So when we come to "Oh What a Beautiful Morning," it's over and over again. You're gonna know that song by the end of the song. You're going to know how to sing that song. It's just a sing along. You kind of think of it as a sing along with your friends and
Yeah.
then lean into the fact that we'll be helping you with breath, and Bill will be helping you with so many things, uh, posture and an ease in your joints and the vocal cords, feeling relaxed even while they're being active. So it's a fun sing along where you can feel more successful about using your voice. That's how
Right.
I kind of think of it.
Awesome. And Bill, I was thinking about, like if I turn to the side, Alexander helps with this, right? That whole lengthening of the head. Is it as we
That,
age, do we tend to just kind of fall down? Is that where forward stoop comes from? Can you tell us
um,
a little bit more about that?
I think that's definitely a part of it. People without PD can slump down. It's something that can happen. The head weighs 8 to 10 pounds, so you have to balance that at the end of your spine. But we're actually built in such a miraculous way that if you just remember in an easy way to stay up at your full height and to remember the upward energy in your body, it doesn't have to be like rigid military posture. It can be an easy, organic kind of movement and posture. And that's something that Alexander can help with. And I just want to say that Heather, in leading the class, is the most friendly, fun, playful kind of person. She makes everybody feel so welcome. So I would say, yes, everybody should come and try a class. We'll put the link in the comments section, but you can go to www.mmjccm.org/Parkinson's. You'll find our Align and Sing program at the JCC, and you can register right online, or you can contact the JCC's box office and they can help you sign up. And we'd love anyone and everyone who's interested to give the class a try.
Wonderful. John, any final words? Joelle, do we have any questions in the chat? Let me just see if anybody has any questions.
I'll offer,
John?
I'll offer, I'll offer hope. Alexander technique, every lesson there's a moment where you smile, where you realize that something you're just experienced was new and gives you hope. And so many people with Parkinson's are, oh, I have Parkinson's, and there's nothing I can do. This is very much something one can do. And as he said earlier, it's even fun.
Wow. Well, a message of hope from John. Thank you so much, Bill, Heather, John, for sharing your lunchtime with me and for all the wonderful insights you shared with us today about how the Alexander technique and singing can help with the management of daily activities and that it's fun. And I have to say that I invited my parents to come with me, and we took the class with you guys, and they had a blast. And Oh, What a Beautiful Morning is one of my parents' favorite songs. And you should have seen them. They were, well, you did see them. They were singing, and it's a really wonderful class that people can come to with their caregivers or family too as well. So please, everyone, do consider it. And any last thoughts anybody has, please feel free to say them now.
Just sing throughout the week, guys. It's good for you. Turn on your radio, dance around in your living room. We need it right now. Sing.
Sing.
And
Beautiful.
relax your body. That's part of it too.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, this conversation is for you. So please let us know what you're interested in learning more about or sharing with us. If you have questions about living with Parkinson's or how to best care for someone living with Parkinson's, please let us know. You can email Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm.org. We want to be having the conversations that matter to you. Next week, on Monday, May 3rd, I will be talking with Susette Shamoon about her unique perspective on Parkinson's. She's a researcher, a therapist, and someone whose husband was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's when he was very young, and she met him when she was 19. She brings many views and insights on living with Parkinson's, which I believe everyone will find interesting. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Take care.